The question I get the most on this channel besides will you take me to Pound Town is what is the best controller for PC? Well, this is it, and to answer the other question,
no, I will not make out with you.
if you guys have been around the channel for a while, then you already know this information, or maybe you just stumbled on this channel drunkly. I have tested many premium controllers from Aim, Scuff, Battle Beaver, Razer, Nacon Revolution, Astro C40, just to name a handful. This little plastic sucker right here is 60 bucks, works with the PC and Android phones. That's it, no Xbox support, no PlayStation support. You got a Switch, get the hell out of here as well. Alright, Stallions and Stallionettes, so this bad boy right here is the Vader 2, and this is by a company called Flydigi. Yes, it is a Chinese company. Don't let that steer you away. I mean, you probably have TikTok installed on your phone, and that is solely a Chinese company. So first of all, cosmetically, I really do like this colorway, kind of a light, kind of an eggshell white with dark gray on the triggers, paddles, as well as face buttons. The face buttons are glossy, and everything else is kind of a flat matte finish, and I have to say, it does feel incredibly good in the hand. If you do like the way an Xbox One controller feels, then you're going to like this, because it is based solely off the same shell design. Ergonomically, it feels very good. So what can this bad girl do for 60 bucks? Well, let's take a peek up the skirt real quick. First of all, this has anti-friction or impact rings, which are basically these glossy rings right here that give you a smooth surface when you're at full lock instead of grinding against the hard plastic shell. Next up, you're going to notice two extra buttons here, C and Z. Now, in addition to these four paddles on the back, these are also remappable. But moreover than just being able to map these bad boys to, you know, the D-pad or one of the face buttons, you can actually set up macros for these. So with the press of one of these buttons here, you can have it basically simulating multiple key presses or whatever. There is also controllable RGB. This does use USB-C to charge, which is interesting because I just tested a $160 brand newly designed Thrustmaster controller, still rocking micro USB, and that was a wired only controller. This is wireless and has USB-C. Speaking of plugs and cords, you can play this wired to the PC, or it does include a 2.4 gigahertz dongle. That is my preferred method. It does also have Bluetooth 4.0, so you can link that up to an Android phone. However, you get a much quicker means of data transfer using a 2.4 gigahertz dongle. In fact, it is virtually input lag free or latency free, which is awesome, especially if you're using this for competitive shooters. Now, there are four paddles on the back, and I have to say, ergonomically, I really do like these bad boys. They're up and out of the way to where you're not going to accidentally actuate them, but when you do need them, you are covering these two paddles with your finger in its natural resting position, and then just a very slight little movement up here, you're able to hit these other two paddles here. Now, if you're trying to cover all four of them, you can hold it like this, but this doesn't feel very ergonomically comfortable. I prefer to just hold it like that. Triggers have a nice linear squeeze, good resistance, good snapback. Bumpers feel really good as well, feel very similar to what you're used to on a standard Xbox One controller. Now, what really makes this bad girl shine is the fact that it does have a pretty robust software suite. I'm going to toss you guys in my pocket, take you on a little road trip. We're going to hop inside my PC here. We're going to live in there like a little ecosystem. We're going to share my screen together, and I'm going to show you guys that software suite and basically all the controllability you have with this bad boy. Then wrap it and tap it, wrap up with my final thoughts. Oh yeah, the battery life is 40 hours, and you have 3 to 5 hours of charge time with quick charging, and then you're back to 40 hours of gameplay. Alright, so you purchased the Vader 2 controller with my link in the description below, so that obviously, if you look down, that put 2 inches on the peen, but now we're going to boost your credit score by 30 points. What we're going to do, share the screen here, I'm going to show you guys how to download the software for this bad boy. So this is flydigi.com. You're going to come over here to Game Center. And then down here, you're going to have 4 options for installing. You're going to have Apple. Now, this does work on iOS devices, however, not the latest and greatest patches or updates from Apple that you probably have. So if you have an older iPhone and you have not been keeping up with your firmware updates, then you can use it on your iPhone. Otherwise, just go ahead and fuck off. Android over here, it does work with Android phones via the Bluetooth. This activation tool right here, this scares me because I don't know what the hell it is, but right here, you're going to click on this bad boy. It is a zip file. Just save it right there to the desktop, and it's going to look like this when you get it installed. So connecting the controller to the PC is pretty simple. I have a small and smooth brain, and I was able to figure it out. You can either use it wired with this braided 10-foot cable, which is good because I know some people prefer wired because they have this misconception that there's like some kind of input lag or delay with using wireless technology. It's incorrect. For the last 7 or 8 years, 2.4 gigahertz dongles have pretty much alleviated, remedied, or made completely obsolete wireless input lag or delay. Moving on from that, there's this little 2.4 gigahertz dongle, and I like the fact that they do include a very streamlined dongle. I have tested other controllers, even more expensive, that include some huge stick of gum looking ass dongle like that. And if you're plugging it into the front of your tower like I do for my wireless accessories and peripherals, I want something small like this that I can't accidentally knock and break off my USB port or just look ugly on the outside of my tower. So let's plug this in real quick. Then on the tuchus, or the rear end of the controller, we're going to go ahead and massage this pleasure button here and turn it on like that. Well, the battery on this bad girl was actually dead because I've been wearing her pretty dry here recently. So I just plugged it in via the USB port. And as you can see, if I cut the lights here to set the mood for us to get ready to fuck here, there is RGB here, which is fully adjustable with the full color spectrum of 16.9 million colors. Go ahead and share the screen here. Now, if you enter the Flydigi space, we've already gotten approval from the FAA to fly in this landing zone here. They're expecting us in the tower, and we're cleared for landing on runway 3. So we're gonna go ahead and enter the Flydigi space. As you can hear, my controller vibrated, startled me a little bit. That's okay. And this is the software suite, which I do have to say is pretty sweet. For a $60 controller, a $60 Chinese controller, which you might be expecting is a huge sack of crap, it really is not. Now, I do really wish that you could full screen this window here, this application, but you can't. That's all right, though. So if you click on test right here, this is basically a diagnostic scan. So maybe you just took the controller apart to paint it or do some customization, or you want to make sure that everything works as it should. So it will basically allow you to test out, there's your thumbstick. If you're getting any stick drift or anything, it'll show you that there. Even when you're not touching the analog stick, you'll see it basically drifting around, and you can adjust the dead zones from in here. But basically this lets you test everything, which is great. Now, if you do need firmware updates for your controller to keep it up with the latest and greatest patches, you will click this little info icon right here and hit check for updates, and it will give you your current firmware and dongle version there as well. Which right now it's not going to show any dongle information because I'm just plugged in via the USB port. But you have 4 separate configurations, and you change between these 4 configurations either in the software program or on the fly from the controller by pressing the plus and minus buttons, which are right here. Now over here, you have different vibration sensitivities. So if you're someone that completely likes to turn off vibration without taking the controller apart and removing the rumbles, you can do that here, which is really cool. You have different color modes here. You have alert or constant, which is basically a static color. You have breathing over here, which they call hide. Hunt, which is lights up whenever you press a button. I don't know why they call them their own special terms. Just call them, static or breathing. But you can adjust the brightness as well as different colors. And as I'm doing that on the screen, it is also doing it in real time in my hand as well. And then over here in the key tab, this is where you are going to remap anything you want. So any of the standard face buttons you can remap, any of these the C and Z button, which I would recommend setting the C and Z button to macros. So that way, with the press of it, you can have it pressing multiple keys at once, which can be very useful in fighting games, RPGs, shooter, pretty much any genre of game, to be 110% honest. Now over here in the joysticks, you can actually set the minimum and maximum sensitivity for your sticks. So when it is going to start recognizing your input, so if you are getting some stick drift or something, you bump this up a couple of notches, and guess what? You don't have stick drift anymore. And then the maximum is basically, if you don't like to have your thumbstick all the way at full lock, you can basically have it to where right here, that is your maximum output for that stick. And then over here in this tab, sensing, basically this has a six axis motion sensing similar to the PlayStation controllers. Xbox One and Series controllers do not have motion sensing on board. This controller does though, so if you're playing a PC game that does require you to move your controller around, you can do that, or if you want to completely turn that feature off, you can, as well as adjust the sensitivity for that feature here as well. So what are my final thoughts of the Vader 2? Well, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, I do believe that this is the best PC controller out there. Why? It's $60. It has paddles, multiple configurations you can switch on the fly, macro buttons. It's comfortable if you like the Xbox One controller, which is good for most average North American hands. You can use it wirelessly, pretty much lag-free with a 2.4 gigahertz dongle. You can use it wired with a 10-foot braided cable, which is USB-C, by the way. Charge time is 3 to 5 hours, and you get 40 hours of gameplay from it, And overall, cosmetically, I think it looks really good. The only con I will say is I do feel like some of the plastics in the front and rear shell are a little bit cheap and chintzy feeling. They feel a little bit scratchy to the fingertips and whatnot, but that's not a huge deal. If it bothers you that much, you can actually put on some kind of grips, like rubberized silicone grips that stick on. I'll have a couple of those linked in the description below if you want to pick those bad boys up as well. What makes this controller awesome is literally the price for performance or bang for buck. That is going to do it, guys. If you enjoyed this honest product review, shoving your thumb not up your butt, guys, but on the like button. Tickle in the YouTube prostate, the Google colon a little bit, helps this video to be seen by more people, which in turn helps me grow this little channel, which I do greatly appreciate. Subscribe for more content much like this. I do a lot of retro gaming content. I cover a lot of news in the gaming community and industry, as well as honest product reviews and tutorials helping you get set up streaming and YouTubing. And I will see you guys in the next video, which will be tomorrow because I upload daily. Peace.